One should meditate upon the Supreme Person as the one who knows everything, as he who is the oldest, who is the controller, who is smaller than the smallest, who is the maintainer of everything, who is beyond all material conception, who is inconceivable, and who is always a person. He is luminous like the sun, and he is transcendental beyond this material nature. The process of thinking of the Supreme is mentioned in this verse. The foremost point is that he is not impersonal or void. One cannot meditate on something impersonal or void. That is very difficult. The process of thinking of Krishna, however, is very easy and is factually stated herein. First of all, the Lord is Purusha, a person. We think of the person Rama and the person Krishna. And whether one thinks of Rama or of Krishna, what he is like is described in this verse of Bhagavad Gita. The Lord is Kavi, that is, he knows the past, present, and future, and therefore knows everything. He is the oldest personality because he is the origin of everything. Everything is born out of him. He is also the supreme controller of the universe. And he is the maintainer and instructor of humanity. He is smaller than the smallest. The living entity is 1/10,000th part of the tip of a hair. But the Lord is so inconceivably small that he enters into the heart of this particle. Therefore, he is called smaller than the smallest. As the Supreme, he can enter into the atom and into the heart of the smallest and control him as the Supersoul. Although so small, he is still all pervading and is maintaining everything. By him, all these plenary systems are sustained. We often wonder how these big planets are floating in the air. It is stated here that the Supreme Lord, by his inconceivable energy, is sustaining all these big planets and systems of galaxies. The word achintya, inconceivable, is very significant in this connection. God's energy is beyond our conception, beyond our thinking jurisdiction, and is therefore called inconceivable, achintya. Who can argue this point? He pervades this material world and yet is beyond it. We cannot comprehend even this material world, which is insignificant compared to the spiritual world. So, how can we comprehend what is beyond? Achintya means that which is beyond this material world, that which our logic, argument, and philosophical speculation cannot touch, that which is inconceivable. Therefore, intelligent persons, avoiding useless argument and speculation, should accept what is stated in the scriptures like the Vedas, Bhagavad Gita, and Srimad Bhagavatam, and follow the principles they set down. This will lead one to understanding. Hare Krishna. So today's topic of discussion is, I'm having some difficulties presenting. Okay. So I think it's because I don't have internet. 1 second. What to do with this material world? You need internet for everything. Yes, there you go. So today's topic is how one can relish Krishna's sweetness by understanding Krishna's greatness. So I was meditating on this topic and I was thinking of an analogy. When we see that somebody is very humble, charitably disposed, has very nice qualities, and when we find out that he is the CEO of Novo Nordisk, or something like that, we are immediately 100 times or 100-fold more magnified. Oh, how can this person in such a great position, be so menial? So this is the position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is so great. We cannot even fathom how great he is. And yet he decides to become the charioteer of Arjuna. So Prabhupada often makes this statement, and somehow my Yes. Now, good. Thank you, Prabhu. So, no. Okay. Okay, good. So, Prabhupada often makes this statement. He says that God is great, God is omnipotent, God is all powerful, but how He is great, that we do not know. So, this is a very important point that everyone talks about the greatness of God. And now, this particular verse of the Bhagavad Gita is saying how great He actually is. So we are going to dive a little bit deeper into understanding how great God is. So, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, this topic is often very dull for many people because it doesn't have any Krishna stealing butter or Krishna getting tied up by by Mother Yashoda or, having tears in his eyes or, things like that. It doesn't have a lot of emotions in it, but it's super important to know. And we will just discuss in a little bit why it is important to know Krishna is so great. But before that, in order to motivate all of you about this subject, I'm going to quote a little verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita, and I will read from my notes here. So, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is saying, Siddhanta boliye chitta na karo alas, iha hoite Krishna lagi sudrida manas. So, Prabhupada in the purport to this, so what this verse means is that when it comes to philosophy, one should not be alas. So, those of you who are Hindi speakers, it means lazy. We shouldn't be lazy when it comes to philosophical topics. Why? Because it will allow your mind to become fixed on Krishna. Sudrida manas. So one's mind will become fixed on Krishna if one is not lazy to learn about the philosophical topics of Krishna consciousness. And these philosophical topics are often very difficult for us to digest. So I will try to make it as easy as possible. And hopefully we can get through with this. So Prabhupada, in the purport to this, he said, one should be particularly careful to understand the truth about Krishna. If because of laziness one does not come to know Krishna conclusively, one will be misguided. About the cult of devotion, like those who declare themselves advanced devotees and imitate the symptoms, the transcendental symptoms sometimes observed in liberated souls. So Srila Prabhupada actually, he says that, one should not skip the first 9 cantos and jump into the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, where we read the, very sweet pastimes. So it's also very interesting that although the 10th canto is considered the face of the Lord, and Parikshit Maharaj here has only 7 days to live, he still asks so many important questions about how did Krishna create this universe? How did he manifest, so many great things? How does he enter into each and every atom? He's asking all these very intricate questions. And one might think, why is this so important to know, Parikshit Maharaj? You're going to die in 7 days. Why can't we just jump into the Leelas, So I want to ask each and every one of you, maybe we can answer it. Why should we meditate on Krishna's greatness? Maybe I gave a little bit clue at the start right now. So why should one meditate on Krishna's greatness? At the time of death? Okay, but I can read the sweet pastimes of the Lord and remember them. The sweet pastimes, the leelas of the Lord, and remember them. So why? Yeah. Okay. Yes, Prabhu. Yeah. 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 Yes. Sure. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So ultimately, it is to understand Krishna better, right? The person that we're worshipping, we should know his true identity, right? That's also important. Okay. Any other answers, girls? That's also your answer. Yes, Mataji.
Sri Prabhupada used to say that you want to imitate Krishna marrying 16,108 wives, but can you create universes?
Haribol. Yeah, that's a very good answer. Yeah. So often we want to imitate great love for God while still having love for material things or lust for material things. And so, therefore, we have to understand this Siddhanta that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, I wrote down some things here that are very relevant to this. So, the first thing is it helps one avoid offenses. So Prabhupada, he said, especially when it comes to deity service, that we should view Radha Krishna not as Radha Krishna, but as serve them as Lakshmi Narayan. You know, serve them with the opulence and awe and reverence of Lakshmi Narayan. So this awe and reverence that we have, it allows us to avoid offenses. You know, the second is humility. So when we understand Krishna is so great, we stop competing with him. So, for instance, if somebody is on the same level as us, our tendency is, okay, how can I compete with this person? You know, he's the same age as me, he makes the same money as me, maybe I can be better than him. But then we will never compete with the top executive of a firm, right? So, when we understand Krishna's position, we understand that, oh, in comparison to him, I'm nothing. You know, we have this feeling of complete humility. And when one is humble, then one can completely surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, and it's also very important to understand this because some of the pastimes of Krishna can be very easily misrepresented or misunderstood. Krishna is eating meat, my baby also eats, Krishna is eating mud, and my baby is also eating mud, you know. Or Krishna is stealing, you know, my child also stole something, you know, or whatever, you know. So one might simply think that, oh, these pastimes are very ordinary, forgetting that, oh, this is Krishna performing these pastimes, you know. That's what the acharyas are relishing, that, oh, look, that Krishna who's, you know, the Paramatma, who's you know, Jagado Dharana, you know, he's the maintainer of this universe, and he is allowing himself to be bound up by Mother Yashoda. And it will help us to understand the significance of his pastimes, actually. So here we have this very nice definition of Bhagavan, of Krishna. Krishna is called Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. Bhagavan says. So who is this Bhagavan? You know? And Parashara Muni gives this very nice definition of Bhagavan. He says that Aishwaryasya samagrasya viryasya yashasa shriyah jnana vairagyayos-chaiva shannam bhaga iti gana. So Parashara Muni says that Krishna is called Bhagavan. Why? Because he has 6 opulences in complete whole. So what are these 6 opulences? He has complete wealth. He has all the wealth in this world. He is Lakshmi Pati. All of us are behind Lakshmi, but she's Chanchal. The word Chanchal means she moves from one place to another. But Lakshmi Pati, she is only at the feet of Lord Vishnu, she is completely satisfied. She's not moving. So he is complete in all riches, all strength. Okay? So when Vaman Dev is fighting Hiranyaksha, you know, and, you know, Varahadev. I'm clearly a bit nervous. So Varahadev, you know, he's fighting Hiranyaksha, and he wants to have this Bollywood fighting scene, you know. So sometimes he's falling, and then sometimes Hiranyaksha is falling, and then the demigods are very anxious. You know, they're very anxious. Like, oh, Brahma, can you please tell him to hurry up? We're scared. We don't know who's going to win. You know, we cannot watch this suspense anymore. So then Brahmaji prays to Varahadev and says, you know, please, you know, Lord, you are you. Please, can you just get rid of this demon now, please. So Varahadev doesn't do much. He just slaps him and then he falls dead. So, so Krishna is all powerful, you know, all, he's so strong, you know, and he has all wisdom. He's all beautiful. He's all famous. He's all renounced. In this world, even if somebody has a little small speck of even one of these opulences, we are very attracted to this person. If somebody is a little rich or somebody is very beautiful, little beautiful, we are very, very attracted to this person. So in regards to this beauty, Prabhupada once, he, back in those days, people would go to the runway to get Prabhupada, from the aircraft. So he, there is, this new brahmachari who's never seen Prabhupada before. He's very anxiously waiting for Prabhupada to come out. So he's, looking as people are coming down. He's looking, is this Prabhupada? Is this Prabhupada? And then he sees this very beautiful air hostess. He's this very beautiful air hostess. And he's looking at her, and his eyes are traveling. And then he turns around, Prabhupada standing in front of him. So Prabhupada says, so, beautiful, no? So what should he say? Should he say yes? If he says yes, how can he say yes? Beautiful woman, how can he say yes? He's a brahmachari. Will he say no? How can he lie to his spiritual master? He cannot do this. So he's like, I don't know. Then Prabhupada said, yes, very beautiful. Imagine the beauty of the person who created her. So Krishna is so beautiful. He's so beautiful, yeah? So moving on. Now, we're going to go into some technical. Do I have all of your attention? So now we're going to go into a little bit of technicality of, creation, creation of this material universe. And we're going to understand thereby how great Krishna is, So, in the Brahma Samhita, Lord Brahma, he prays to Krishna. He says, Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadiradir Govindaha Sarvakarana Karanam. Krishna, who is known as Govinda, is the supreme Godhead. He is eternally blissful. Spiritual body. He has an eternal, blissful spiritual body. He is the origin of all. He has no other origin, and he is the prime cause of all causes. So I was very fixated on this last line. He's the prime cause of all causes, and I was really thinking about this. And then I came across one lecture. There, this Prabhuji was explaining, what does it mean, the prime cause of all causes? It means, let me give you a small example. So imagine you see a trail of ants. You see a small trail of ants. And then they're going towards a sugar cube. So one looks at the trail of ants and says, oh, the cause of the trail of ants is this sugar cube. And what is the cause of this sugar cube? Oh, it is the supermarket where I have purchased this sugar cube from. Okay, how did the supermarket get this sugar cube? Oh, it is the retailer that is distributing this. Oh, where did the retailer get the sugar from? Oh, it is the farmer who has sown the sugar, sugar cane. Oh, okay. So who is the origin of the farmer? His parents. Who is the origin of his parents? His parents. And if we go on and on and on and on, at one point, we will stop and we'll realize, oh, Krishna is the cause. Who is the cause of Krishna? There is no cause for Krishna. So he is the cause of all causes. Sarva Karana Karanam. So at that point where all our questions completely end, that is Krishna. When we are trying to find the cause of this world, at that point where all our questions stop, that point is Krishna. So he is Sarva Karana Karanam. Yes. So again, moving to a little bit technical topic. So we're going to talk about creation in a glance. Again, we're going to meditate on the Brahma Samhita. Ya karanarjab Karnava jale bhajati sma yoga nidramananta jagadanda saroma kupa adhara shaktim avalambya param swamurtim govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. So Brahmaji in this verse is beautifully describing how all of these universes came about. Do you want to know how this universe came into existence? Yes? Hari bol? Or should I stop? No. So, we'll take it one step back. Brahmaji is explaining this very, detailedly in this verse, but we'll take one step back. So Krishna expands as Balram. That is the first expansion of the Lord. And from Balram comes the first Chatur Vyuha. Okay, this is a word which means, Chatur Vyuha means four forms of the Lord. Vasudeva, Sankarshana, Pradyumna and Aniruddha. So the first Chatur Vyuha, And then from Sankarshana comes Narayana, And from Narayana is the second Chatur Vyuha. And lucky for us, they are called the same. Vasudeva, Sankarshana, Aniruddha and Pradyumna. And again from Sankarshana comes Mahavishnu. So if you have been counting, he is, I think, a portion of a portion of a portion of a portion of a portion, right? So Mahavishnu is a part of the whole. Not part of the whole in the sense he is complete himself, but he is one of the plenary expansions of the Lord after several expansions. So this Mahavishnu, he is so large. So I want you all to just imagine this, that he is so large, when he sweats, an ocean is created. Yes, can you imagine this? Maybe we wet our shirt sometimes with sweat, right? But, Karano the Kashai, this is Mahavishnu, he's laying down on the Karana ocean. This ocean is made from the sweat that he created himself. And, Mahavishnu is lying down in sleep, and very casually, millions and millions of universes are coming out of the pores of his hair. Now I want you to imagine for 1 second, how big are the pores on your own hand? Very small, very tiny, isn't it? Can you imagine how big the pore of Mahavishnu must be, that an entire universe comes out of that pore, and not just one universe, but several universes, and how many pores he must have? Unlimited pores. Out of these unlimited pores, unlimited universes are coming out every second. Can you imagine this? And this is the image that we are looking at, over here on the side, that Mahavishnu's pores continuously come out, several unlimited universes. It doesn't stop there. It doesn't stop there. The Lord then enters into each and every one of these universes in the form of Garbho Udaka Vishnu. So he is called Garbha Udaka Shai Vishnu. So he is, laying down again he is the one that Brahmaji goes to every time there's a problem. Knock, 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 knock. Vishnu, we have a problem. So every time he goes to Garbhodaka Shai Vishnu, he is the superintendent, the maintainer of that universe, And now this Lord is not small. He is huge. He's massive, He's lying down on an ocean of milk, and on top of Anantashesh. He looks beautiful, So this Lord, from his navel comes out a beautiful lotus. And at the top of this lotus is born our Brahma. Yes, Brahmaji is born on this lotus. And Brahmaji, when he is born, he opens his eyes and he sees darkness everywhere. He says, what am I supposed to do? He looks down. He sees that the stalk of the lotus is never ending. He tries to climb down and he realizes, oh my God, this is going nowhere. He goes back, he sits down and he thinks, what is the purpose of my life? Just as all of us have this question, right? So Brahmaji hears 2 words. He hears tapa, tapa, tapa. And then he decides, okay, I will do tapasya. And when he is purified by tapasya, Vishnu reveals to him, you are the engineer of this material world. So now I have created Bhumir Apo Analo Vayu Kham Mano Buddhirevacha Ahankaram Iti Yame Bhinna Prakritir Ashtada. Krishna is saying in the Bhagavad Gita that I have created 8 energies. These are my separated 8 energies. Bhumi, earth, Apo, water, Analo, fire, Vayu, wind, Kham, ether, Mano, mind, Mano, Buddhir, intelligence. Kam mano buddhir evacha. So these 3 subtle elements, the ego, and these 5 elements. So he says, here's your, the ingredients for your creation. Go ahead, create, So Brahmaji is, laying down the bricks, and everything that we see in this material world is made out of these 8 elements, or at least the first 5. Non-living things are made up of the first 5, and conscious living creatures also have the other 3. Yeah? So, Brahmaji is creating. And this is so astonishing because, I will just go to the next slide. Do you see this? This is the image I was talking to you about. Do you see this over here? This is the stalk of the lotus. And within the stalk of this lotus lies the 14 planetary systems. Now, can you imagine that all the 14 planetary systems are within the stalk of this lotus? How big must the stalk of this lotus be that it is holding this entire universe, all these 14 planetary systems? And how big must the navel of, Garbhodakashayi Vishnu be in order for that stalk to fit inside his navel? And then finally, how big must Mahavishnu be? Because when you compare it to our body, the navel is also very small, isn't it? So how big must Garbhodakashayi Vishnu be, And here he is very casually just, maintaining the entire universe, very calm, No one can take care. Even maintaining one small government, in this world takes so many departments, so much corruption, so much is happening, there's so many discrepancies, So they cannot, I've heard some rumors, I don't know if it's true, the tax department in Denmark is a bit messy. I don't know if this is true. But, very organized, country like Denmark is finding it so difficult to take care of such a small population. Can you imagine that? Mahavishnu, Garbhodakashayi Vishnu is taking care of the entire universal manifestation. So this is the greatness of the Lord. He's Mahato Mahiyan. He is the greatest of the great. Larger than what we can ever imagine. Yeah. So I have a question for all of you. This question is, which is the smallest universe in this material creation? Yeah. Ours is the smallest universe, apparently. Okay, and I will depict it in some time. I will tell you the story of how we came to this conclusion. Yeah. So before that, I want to show you. I have to impress all of you with a video. So I'm going to do that. So I'm going to show you a very nice video of the entire universe, basically. Yeah. It seems never ending. We are not at the end of the universe yet. Now we are at the end of the universe. This is the Milky Way, by the way, 100,000 light years. And now we're going to see the smallest of the smallest, according to material calculation. Now we're going into the atom. Yes. So, this is the smallest universe in the creation. Can you believe it? And unlimited such universes are coming out of, Mahavishnu, Mahavishnu's pores. Yeah. So I'm going to just tell you, how our Brahmaji came to know, There was this one time when he went to meet, Krishna in Dwaraka, and he said, tell, he tells the guards, please tell Krishna I've arrived. And then at that point, Krishna says, which Brahma? Which Brahma has come? And then he becomes surprised. He said, why is Krishna asking me this? So when he meets Krishna, he says, Krishna, you told me that I am the, which Brahma? How is that? Are there more Brahmas? He's completely bewildered. So, so then Brahmaji, Krishna smiles and he says, he closes his eyes, meditates, asks all the Brahmas to come in front of him. And then there are so many Brahmas that appear. Some of them have 10 heads. Some of them have 1,000 heads. Some of them have million heads. Some of them have 10 million heads. And then this is our Brahma over here. I've circled him for you. He felt like a small rabbit, in the assembly of these Brahmas. And, at one point he says, oh, Krishna, wow. And then Krishna says, yeah, your universe that you take care of, our small four-headed Brahma, he takes care of a universe which is 4 billion miles only. Krishna says, there are universes much, much greater than this. 100 billion, 1,000 billion, trillions, you cannot even imagine. And for each of these Brahmas, they accordingly have many heads. Krishna says very matter-of-factly. And he says, you know what, Brahma? This is only 1/4 of my creation. What to speak of 3/4 of my creation, which is the spiritual sky. Yeah. So now we are going to come back to Krishna's sweetness. So now Krishna, who is this person who is creating this entire universe, will you or will you not be astonished that he is being chased by Mother Yashoda and is crying and is looking very scared, or he's stealing butter, or he's eating mud? It's completely astonishing, isn't it? So there's a bhakti saint in south of India. He's from a place called Karnataka. He's revered as the father of Carnatic music. So he writes this very nice song. He says, Jagadodharan RDC Dalyashoda Jagadodharan RDC Dalyashoda I know I need Mahato Mahiyana Purandara Vithalana RDC Dalyashoda Jagadodharan. He says, Krishna, you are Jagadodharana. You are the maintainer of this entire universe. And what is Mother Yashoda doing? Adi Sidal Yashoda. She is playing with you like you're just her own son, very ordinarily. And this is so astonishing to me. You are greater than the greatest and you're smaller than the smallest. And yet Mother Yashoda is playing with you like you're very ordinary. And so here I will conclude my class for today. So Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for your attention. Hari Hari.